You know, if we take this player controller, we go out here, and we go back in. Oh, come on. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do this from a standalone. Because it's net placing me back in. Here we go. Third person character. Oh yeah, you can already see it happening from my camera. If I take this and move it away, you can see that it's treadmilling everything, right? And so, you know, as I move away, oh, I think it's because my camera's too close. Yeah, as I move away, those buildings over here, these guys load away, as we can see. Mostly just because, or we can see them because the camera counts as a loader too. So, you know, as you see here, uh, I can look in all directions and things don't load in. So that's correct. This is all what we want. But the thing is that when you start getting to the point of, I hope that the sprinting is fast enough. I just want to see some stuff pop in if we can get, see there goes the land. And then as we get closer, um, buildings will start popping in. Man, I need to make the sprint even faster. Here we go. Here's some new stuff. Oh, there. See, there's the buildings. So the question is, of course, when this building loads in, let's say it's a skyscraper with 6 floors in it, and all 6 floors have stuff going on in them. The thing is that all 6 floors, with all 6 floors of enemies and stuff, would arguably load in. So if I click F8 now, and I zoom out, you know, if every single one of these buildings have an interior, that's a lot of stuff to load. So usually in a game like this, or in a game where there's like transitioning between, you know, you go down in here and it takes you down through the floor and into like some chasm below, you would, when you get up to the door, um, you would load the inside and have the outside loaded at the same time. And then when you go inside, you know, you'd have some of the outside loaded, but then basically everything all around would be unloaded, right? Um, and then you'd be inside and you'd go through the tunnels or whatever, and things would load and unload as you're going, and there'd be no world up here, right? So that's kind of a bit of a optimization concern because, well, the more up-down layers you have, the more gets loaded in any one of these horizontal sections. So then I very quickly um, threw this together. So there's a collision box around here, and what it does is oops, um, it loads a data layer. So this is a layer that's unloaded, and this one, because it's a data layer, it's custom and unique. I had to make the data layer, I had to put the stuff in it, I had to name it something, and then I had to make it so that this collision field loads this data layer in particular. But what happens is, of course, you'd make this a lot more structured, is that when you step near the entrance, it triggers the data layer and therefore loads the insides. So, you know, arguably you'd have some entranceway and maybe like a wall here so that when you walk in, you wouldn't see these things pop in. But then you turn around the corner and it's all here, you blah, 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 you know, zoom around, get your stuff, and then you leave. And as you're leaving, it pops out. And of course, the thing about this is that the collision box can be the exact size of the floor or what have you, or a little bit, you know, spread beyond. So then you can have multiple floors where if this takes you upstairs, this main floor will unload and the upstairs will load. And ultimately this exterior would still be loading, doing all its stuff, and we could probably do even more controls where when you're on an interior, it makes your outside region like load distance way smaller, so as to not load a bunch of distant stuff while you can't even see it behind the walls. And then the last thing is that data layers are replicated. So if I go listen server and thing, and I haven't set any of this up to be a multiplayer thing. We'll have a much better system with our collaborative one. But look, when you step in, it loads, and it loads for this player too. And I have it so that when two players are in the same area and you take one player and you leave, it won't unload. And then when you leave, then this unloads. So, I mean, this can arguably just be an enviro switch. A data layer enviro switch is when players then switch the data layer. So of course this is going to be a really manual and hands-on thing, and of course we don't need the world to be so expansive. Just some of the things you can do while I'm here is like, you can make areas where you go, okay, this is going to be a section of the city. And so then you can go into the landscape mode and you can go, well, some of this other stuff won't be, so I can just like delete, these subsections. So then there's less to load, less to process and stuff like that. And then you can make this self-contained thing, and then you can build level out somewhere else and just teleport between them, right? So then this allows you to even do stuff where, yeah, you'll just outdistance a bunch of this area, say this is downtown in some people's world. Most of downtown just won't load when you're out there. And of course, this system works with HLODs, level of details. So then, of course, we can have, schools or skyscrapers, particular big structures like this billboard from that far. So there can be a spatial presence of the city that literally you can look up from one area and see the other area, like you would in like a Dark Souls game. But ultimately, there's no real connection from one to the other until you use a transport mode that sends you there. So this isn't full sandbox, full stream, sandbox world. We're just hijacking those tools to have nice streamlined persistent world with the ability to have more granular control over specific areas. So then for every building, you've got a butcher shop on the street corner and you've got an apartment building and stuff like that. We would make all sorts of sub data layers that can be toggled in and out. So the cool thing is if one player's on this main floor and then another player's on this upper floor, both floors would be loaded in because they would have their player counts as higher than 0, and so then both areas would be loaded. They would be operating for each other, kind of thing, and then you leave one way, the other person leaves the other way, and stuff starts unloading. So ideally this can be the very beginning, the crux of how we maintain an optimized environment. And then the cool thing about this kind of authoring mode is that, say I just want to work on why isn't it showing? Oh, here's the camera right here. So I only want to work on my areas, so I can just select these and I can unload selected regions, and I can select these and I can unload selected regions, and I can select these and unload selected regions. Let's see. I can select these and unload selected regions. See, it starts to thin out. And so then the idea is that developers can work on this one section of this map, and all of this editing and stuff changes the assets in that region and the assets themselves, but don't contribute to any altering of, like, say, the other area over there. I'm having trouble making these assets unload with the landscape, because when I try to just like unload more than just the landscapes, a greater land piece, and I try to unload it, it still doesn't unload these guys. But anyways, they'll still distance cull and stuff. I wish I had a better grasp on why that's not happening. But then, yeah, this allows us to have level and landscape and terrain tools for all of our external areas, and then we can author our own internal areas that come in as we hit there. And of course, we can have the collider detect cone of vision and other like normal methods of triggering those kinds of these fields so that, as you approach, it'll already be loaded, from points of view, if you have windows and you can see inside and stuff. And so then, yeah, these two layers means that we have a grand world and we have granular world as well. And so we should be able to densify absolutely everything, because if you're focused on this building, the shop front next door and the apartment building next door, and then the apartments, 17 million kilometers away, none of them will have any burden to contribute whatsoever. And then you can come out and then, say you're looking at both of these at the same time, and it's like, well, both of these would load in their data layers, and then when you look away, that one would unload, and you'd only have this one loaded. So optimization, functionality, and workflow, I think, is starting to show here. This is just the technical spec, so of course we can now expand visually and aesthetically using these base concepts to keep everything optimal and authorable. Thanks for watching. Bye.